All right, I believe that we are live. We are live on YouTube, and we will be simulcasting this as well on the Thomas Take Sports Podcast Spotify, as well as the Thomas Take Sports Podcast uh, YouTube and Apple Podcast. And you guys will be able to watch this show as well as listen to this show on the Thomas Take Sports Podcast Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Spreaker.com, as well as YouTube. I'm going live on both avenues right now, which is really, really cool. Never have been able to accomplish this before, but here we are. Good stuff. Awesome. Very much enjoying it. So, hopping on to the podcast today to dive into the return of America's pastime. Baseball is back, folks. Baseball is back, and it is back. Thank the baseball gods, first and foremost. Honus Wagner, George Herman Ruth. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. So, wanted to hop on here and dive into the return of America's pastime. I didn't think that this would happen, folks. I really didn't. I didn't think that this would come to fruition. I thought that we were really living in a fantasy land, thinking that baseball was going to make its comeback. But here we are. Baseball will be making its return in 2020, and I am very, very thankful that we will see a season here in 2020. Obviously, baseball is a sport that is near and dear to my heart. It's a game that I love to play growing up. Little League, high school. I greatly enjoy the game of baseball. And to say that it was a harrowing journey for baseball to get here, I think is a little bit of an understatement. I really had severe doubts as to whether or not the Commissioner Rob Manfred, and Major League Baseball's Players Association, I really wondered whether or not they would actually be able to come to any sort of an agreement on this entire situation. But as written by Ken Davidoff and Joel Sherman on the New York Post, they stated when Commissioner Rob Manfred and MLB Players Association agreed on the terms of their COVID-conscious health and safety protocols on Tuesday night, they formalized the restart of the most unusual season. Players must report to spring training, most of which will be held at team ballparks by July 1st, with the intention of holding opening day on July 23rd or July 24th and running a 60-game regular season, assuming the pandemic doesn't worsen to the point of causing a shutdown. So this is all under the pretenses that we do not get this foreseen second wave by Dr. Fauci. Dr. Fauci believes that we will get a second wave prior to this season, even during this quote unquote season, if you want to call it that, of Major League Baseball. And to quote the major leagues, Major League Baseball is thrilled to announce that the 20 season is on the horizon. We have provided the Players Association with the schedule to play 60 games and are excited to provide our great fans with baseball again soon. All remaining issues have been resolved, and players are reporting to training camps. So this is a great victory for sports. This is a great victory for baseball. This is a great victory for this country and as well for Canada. Shout out to the Toronto Blue Jays. That they will be able to see baseball take place in 2020 with probably an expanded postseason of some sort. Given that there's only 60 games this year, we have to kind of come up with an agreement that would allow teams to make the playoffs that normally wouldn't. I mean, you're cutting the season more. It's not even in half. It's more than half of the season. So really. We will see some changes, though, in comparison to years past. A flurry of other regulations, per the New York Post, will go into effect from roster management. They'll start at 30 and dwindle down to 26 with designated taxi squads to an August 31st trade deadline to the schedule. The standard 6 divisions will exist with regional travel only and much more. And as this says, a bunch of other stuff as well. So I think that this is going to be very interesting, obviously, because you have the money side of it as well. You have the money side of it in the fact that multiple players are reported to be losing hundreds of millions of dollars in salary compared to what they normally get. Going back to December, this article states by Forbes that in December, Garrett Cole signed the biggest contract in the history of the sport. I found this article really interesting. Garrett Cole obviously signed the biggest free agent contract in the history of baseball. Based on the average annual value, his 9-year deal was set to pay him $36 million annually through 2028 for a total of $324 million. The $36 million salary for 2020 tied him with 3-time MVP Mike Trout for tops in the game, but the 2 American League stars will settle for only, quote unquote, only $13.3 million instead. Boy, I would love to settle for $13.3 million. I wouldn't mind that. Wouldn't have to work a day job for the rest of my life if I had that much money. I guarantee you that. I'm not stupid with my money. I'm smart with it. Very smart with my money, by the way. Very smart with my money. Like all veteran players, Cole and Trout had already received $286,500 of compensation during April and May. That money was guaranteed whether there was a 2020 season or not. Younger players were paid lower totals ranging from $16,500 to $60,000. And, this article was written yesterday by Kurt Badenhausen of Forbes.com. Major League Baseball start date is currently expected to be around July 24th, and the prorated player salaries are based on a season taking place. Coronavirus case spikes across the country are giving sports leagues pause about their restart plans. Training camp sites in Florida and Arizona have closed after player tests came back positive. While Trout and Cole have the largest 2020 salaries among active players, blah, 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 blah. So without reading into that too much, basically this season is unprecedented in baseball history. This season is unprecedented in sports history. To have a 60-game baseball season, I'm going to go out on a limb here and actually dive into the game itself. 60 games. It is reported widely that, let's say, my favorite baseball team, the Boston Red Sox, they will mostly play their AL East foes. They won't be playing many other teams outside of the AL East because it's 60-game season. It's 2 months worth of season of regular season baseball, and I like that. Actually, I think it's going to make the division races far more interesting. I think it's going to make fantasy baseball far more interesting. I love to look at things from a fantasy baseball angle, and I think that this whole situation is going to make things very interesting for fantasy baseball. And for anybody that is looking to get into a fantasy baseball league, I got some spots. So hit me up. We'll make something happen for sure. More than down to make something happen for fantasy baseball fans out there and for baseball fans in general. But if I were to pick a favorite for this 2020 season, as far as a team that'll win the World Series, I would be hard-pressed to pick against the New York Yankees. And it pains me to say that. You guys have no idea how much it pains me to say that. I don't want to have to pick the Yankees, but they are really deep. They did get Garrett Cole, and their bullpen is the best bullpen in the major leagues. And at the end of the day, in a short season, I think a bullpen is even more important than it already is in a 162-game season. So, that being said, you take that bullpen, they'll be fresher than ever heading into this postseason, being that they'll pitch in less games. And this bullpen, I think, is actually going to be what helps lead the Yankees to a pandemic World Series championship. And, I'm gonna ring that home a bunch. I don't know if Yankees fans should take that as a positive if the Yankees win it this year. I think anyone who wins the World Series this year has a major, major asterisk next to it. And, that's not their fault, but it just does. It just does. The season is shorter. The season won't be as long. The season will have different schedule dynamics to it that it normally doesn't have. So, we'll be looking at this and saying, I just think that even in a 162 game season, I am willing to say that the Yankees are what they are. They're a very good team. Eric Leno on the chat side of things says, "Thank you for being respectful to my Yankees" on the YouTube chat. No problem, man. Real recognizes real. The Yankees are due. They've been knocking on the door. 2017 knocked on the door with Houston. 2018 made it to the playoffs. They got stymied by my Red Sox, but things happen. 2019, close but no cigar again against Houston. So I think baseball really needed this. The baseball fans really needed this, because you look at the situation of baseball right now. Let's just play hypotheticals. I know there is going to be a season, and I'm very thankful for that, but I do want to play devil's advocate and just say, what if there wasn't a baseball season? I think the bitter taste in everyone's mouths from not having a baseball season would have really sucked, due to the fact that not only are we not having a season, but we also have to chew on the fact that the Houston Astros largely cheated the game for multiple seasons on their way to appearing in 2 World Series championships in the last 3 years, winning one of them, losing the other. And, I think Manfred handled that situation terribly. I think that was the big moment in his commissioner tenure in the major leagues. And he handled it like a wuss. He didn't throw the gauntlet down. He didn't do anything. He didn't throw the gavel down. He didn't do anything. And that really, for me, is, that's why people don't respect baseball as much as they used to anymore, because they let these guys just get away with things, from waiting till 4 or 5 years after the fact of McGuire and Sosa taking steroids to, all these years later, the Houston Astros are found to be bending the rules, manipulating the game, stealing signs, and baseball does nothing about it. So, the outrage as far as baseball goes is more than warranted. And I hope that, people are able to somewhat distract themselves a little bit from that with this season. I think that this season will be very important in doing that and moving on from the Houston Astros. I take a look at my Boston Red Sox as well, just briefly, real quick here. And I say that, me personally, I don't want them to bring back Alex Cora in 2021. There's a lot of rumors that they're going to. I hope they don't. I want them to distance themselves from this as much as possible. I don't want any part of Alex Cora on the Boston Red Sox staff. Not anymore. I'm good. You made your point there, Cora. You made your point. I'd like to see, Jason Varitek get that job. I'd like to see really anybody else get that job, and just move on in any capacity in the best way possible, best way humanly possible. That's what I would prefer. But we have to acknowledge that this is a big victory for baseball. I had real true doubt as to whether or not this would actually happen. I thought, man, I don't think this is going to happen. I don't think baseball is coming back. I really did not think baseball would make a return. Fans, no fans, whatever. I don't care. I will be tuning in to as many games as I can, whether they're Yankees games, whether they're Red Sox games, whether they're Cubs, Cardinals, Angels, whoever it is. I'm going to be tuning in because, this summer has not felt like summer without baseball. And that's the biggest thing. Fall wouldn't feel like fall without football or without baseball. Winter wouldn't feel like winter without football either. So, those are two sports that, as well as hockey, that three sports that, things don't feel the same without those three sports. Not to me. I don't dislike basketball, but I would say out of the three sports, out of the four sports, baseball, hockey, and football are the three that I really enjoy. I don't know what this means for the minor leagues either. That is something that I want to look into for the purpose of the Buffalo Bisons. You won't be able to go to any minor league games, obviously, but I would like to find out if they're actually going to be playing. You can tune into them on the Buffalo sports networks and stuff like that. They have the ability for us to do that in this area, I'm pretty sure. So that would be something I would like to watch. Toronto is getting a lot better. They drafted a really good draft pick in this year's draft. They're only going to get better with Bo Bichette, with Vlad Guerrero Jr., Kevin Biggio. I think those guys are only going to get better. The AL East in particular is going to be a very intriguing division, as it always is. But now with the Red Sox in this proverbial rebuild a little bit here, I'm looking forward to seeing how this whole thing pans out with Toronto. Adley Rutschman of Baltimore Orioles. You got some young talent in these divisions. Heston Kjerstad, who went to the Orioles second overall. Max Meyer went to the Marlins. Asa Lacy went to the Royals, and then Austin Martin was the shortstop that I thought would go, 1 or 2. He went 5th overall to Toronto. So, the AL East is getting interesting again, and that's good. It's good for the game. So, I'm very pumped up for baseball to be back. If anybody has any interest in participating in my fantasy baseball league, let me know. This YouTube channel is really just getting off the ground. I did not have a laptop for quite some time, and I was able to get one and revive this YouTube channel, give it some life and give it some new eyes, put some new eyeballs on this YouTube channel, and expand the podcast a little bit in the best way I know how. So I hope you guys enjoyed the show. My take on baseball coming back. I'm very happy about it. Obviously, we need baseball. It's summertime. We need baseball. Whether I can go to a baseball game or not, I'll be tuning in either way. I'm not one of these new age, millennials that, baseball's too slow. Baseball, it's not fast enough. I want fast. They could go without changing a single rule about baseball, and I would still watch it. I enjoy the game. I love the game. I love everything about it. I love, some of the big star players, guys like Mike Trout, obviously Mookie Betts. I would love to see him back on the Red Sox. There's a lot of rumors circulating about that. I'll dive into that at some point on the podcast for sure. But a lot to talk about with baseball, and what is America without baseball? We have to have it. We just have to. And kudos to Rob Manfred and the MLB Players Association for making this happen. For as long as it took for them to make it happen, the fact that they do deserve credit for that. Free Pete Rose. That's my last bit of info. Free Pete Rose. Take care, everybody. For more of the Thomas Take Sports Podcast, you can find it on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you want to interact with me more, you can follow me on Twitter at Ryan Thomas Take and on Instagram at Ryan Thomas Take, and we can discuss sports and all. Any questions that you guys have for the podcast, you can submit to me through the Twitter at Ryan Thomas Take or through my Instagram at Ryan Thomas Take. Take care. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you want to share the video, send it to your friends. Spread the word. Nothing better than, some collab. Take care.